A 2023 European Union survey found that 54% of people of African descent in Finland and 71% in Austria said they had experienced racism within 5 years. That isn't a small complaint from a few angry travelers. I don't want to turn this into fear-mongering because travel can still be beautiful, warm, and full of good people. But when black travelers describe the same kind of treatment in different countries, it deserves a closer look. You book the same hotel, pay the same bill, wait in the same line, and somehow the welcome can feel colder. A worker may ask extra questions, a guard may follow too closely, a club may suddenly have a private rule, or a stranger may treat you like something to stare at. For many black travelers, the trip isn't only about beaches, food, museums, shopping, or nightlife. It's also about figuring out where they will actually be respected. Today, we're counting down the top 10 countries where black travelers often feel unwelcomed. If you've ever been watched, ignored, questioned, or treated differently while traveling, tell us where it happened in the comments. Number 10, Lebanon. Beirut has long been praised by travelers as the Paris of the Middle East, a brilliant gem on the shores of the Mediterranean. International tourists flock here to immerse themselves in luxury beach clubs, enjoy exquisite cuisine, and walk among thousands of years old historical ruins in Byblos. However, for many black travelers, the trip can quickly run into a much less glamorous reality. Some people still judge black visitors through class, race, and migrant worker stereotypes. The travel experience in Lebanon is heavily shaped by the kafala system, a migrant labor sponsorship system that has been criticized for leaving workers with very little protection. According to continuous reports from the anti-racism movement, ARM, in Lebanon between 2022 and 2024, this system has helped normalize a harmful assumption. Dark skin is often linked with domestic work or low-paid labor. This mindset is deeply rooted enough that some locals may struggle to distinguish between a migrant worker and a black international tourist. This discrimination can show up quickly right in the middle of what should be your most relaxing moments. Imagine you are wearing a gorgeous designer outfit, about to step into a famous nightclub in the Gemazeh neighborhood of Beirut or a private beach resort. While the white tourists right in front of you are waved in with welcoming smiles without any checks, the moment you step up, the arm of a large bouncer might immediately block your chest. They may look at you with suspicion, asking you to show an expensive VIP membership card, or making up a rule like only for guests who booked months in advance. Invisible barriers thrown up on the spot just to deny your presence. To have a smoother trip in Lebanon, you need to prepare for these uncomfortable moments. The best solution is to book all services in advance through major international hotels, where a professional concierge can help you book tables and vouch for your tourist status. Always keep a copy of your passport and flight itinerary on your phone. Most importantly, if you are turned away at a venue, don't get pulled into an argument or lose your temper. Turn around, walk away with pride, and take your money to a place where you are truly respected. Number 9, Bahrain. Bahrain constantly spends big money to build its image as an open and modern kingdom in the Gulf. This country welcomes the world with glittering skyscrapers in the desert, gold-plated malls, a famous Formula One racetrack, and a thousands of years old pearl diving heritage. However, behind that polished image and heavily advertised hospitality is a Gulf labor hierarchy that can be harsh and unfair. In countries like Bahrain, the class divide doesn't necessarily create street violence, but it can create quiet disrespect that makes a traveler feel small. Reports from the human rights organization migrant-rights.org have repeatedly pointed out that in this social ranking, dark skin is often linked with manual labor or low-paid work. As a result, some locals and service staff may make a quick assumption. They assume black tourists cannot afford luxury services and don't treat them with the same respect as white tourists or native Arabs. How does this translate into an uncomfortable experience? Imagine you are walking into the Avenues Mall, the busiest and most luxurious shopping center in the capital city of Manama. You step into a high-end watch store. While Western tourists are eagerly welcomed, offered water, and assisted the moment they walk through the door, you might stand in front of the glass counter for 15 minutes while the staff deliberately ignores you and avoids eye contact. Even worse, when going through immigration at Bahrain International Airport or walking into the lobby of a five-star hotel, security guards might flip through your passport over and over with scrutinizing eyes, asking suspicious questions about your trip's purpose. For black travelers in Bahrain, presentation can unfortunately affect how seriously some people treat you. Always wear smart casual attire, even if you're just walking around town or heading to the airport. A neat outfit can sometimes reduce the chance of being read through the migrant labor stereotype. Don't use unmetered taxis or public transport. Book a private transfer service in advance through your hotel. Having your hotel booking, return flight, and payment method ready can help reduce awkward questions from the first moment you arrive. Number 8. South Korea. South Korea is a dream destination for millions of tourists globally, thanks to the explosion of K-pop culture, a world-leading cosmetics industry, and the bustling neon-lit streets of Seoul. From the outside, South Korea looks polished, modern, and almost impossible not to admire. But behind that polished image, South Korea has an uncomfortable gap. It is one of the few developed OECD nations that still has not passed a clear national anti-discrimination law. That leaves a serious gap in protection. According to statements from the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, CERD, and warnings from South Korea's own National Human Rights Commission, NHRCK, some foreign residents and black travelers have reported businesses refusing service based on race and nationality, which remains legal due to the lack of a comprehensive anti-discrimination law. Because South Korea is still highly homogeneous, some black travelers say they stand out immediately, especially in nightlife areas and smaller neighborhoods. You will feel this cultural shock hit you the hardest when night falls in entertainment districts like Hongdae or Itaewon. A black traveler can join the excited crowd walking up to the door of a bar or nightclub, only to find the mood can change at the door. Some foreign residents and black travelers have reported seeing signs like "No foreigners" at nightlife venues. If you try to walk in anyway, the bouncer might push you out claiming the bar is full, but a second later they will smile and open the barrier for a group of Korean students to enter. On crowded subway trains in Seoul, the blunt curiosity of older people turns into harsh, judgmental stares, making you feel like a public curiosity instead of a regular traveler. Don't let your dream vacation be ruined by stares on the train or bossy bouncers. Take the initiative to research thoroughly in international expat groups to filter out a list of restaurants and bars that are labeled foreigner-friendly or truly welcome diversity. Understand that being rejected at a bar door is not your fault, but the flaw of an incomplete legal system. And keep your patience to continue your journey. Number 7. India. India is a massive subcontinent, a gathering place of brilliant heritage like the Taj Mahal, peaceful yoga retreats along the Ganges River, and incredibly colorful festivals. Yet, this deeply spiritual country is still shaped by a long-running problem called colorism. Prejudice based on how light or dark your skin is. The old caste system, combined with Bollywood and beauty advertising, has long pushed lighter skin as more beautiful, more successful, and more respectable. Meanwhile, it associates dark skin with poverty, crime, and lower status. This discrimination doesn't just stop at annoying attitudes. Annual reports from the Association of African Students in India, AASI, and human rights groups paint a very troubling picture. The peak was when a furious mob attacked African students in Greater Noida in 2017, based on baseless accusations. While short-term tourists might face less risk of physical violence than expats, mental harassment and daily pressure are things they may experience. Imagine a real-life scenario. You are standing in front of the India Gate in Delhi, longing to admire and take a souvenir photo with this historical monument. But instead of enjoying the space, you suddenly find yourself completely surrounded by a crowd of dozens of strangers, from kids to the elderly. Without asking for permission, they just raise their phones to take pictures, turn on their flash to record videos, or follow closely behind you for blocks as if you are part of the attraction instead of a person trying to enjoy the monument. Your privacy is completely stripped away. If you try to find some peace by renting an Airbnb in a residential area on the outskirts of the city, don't be too surprised if the host flat out cancels your booking at the last minute, as soon as they see your profile picture. In India, black travelers may have a smoother experience with a local guide, especially outside major tourist zones. Hiring a reputable local guide not only helps you understand the culture better, but can also create a buffer when crowds become too curious or pushy. Be brave enough to draw your personal boundaries by saying no, loudly, clearly, and firmly when someone deliberately tries to sneak a photo of you. Finally, only prioritize staying in the central districts of major cities and high-end hotels, where the presence of international guests is a given. Number 6. China. China has an undeniable appeal with the majestic Great Wall, the ancient Forbidden City, and futuristic megacities like Shanghai or Shenzhen. However, those landmarks don't erase the reality that many locals have had limited exposure to black foreigners. In many places, people's ideas about black people come less from real contact and more from TV, rumors, and social media. This bias can turn into open discrimination during a crisis. The clearest example of this repeated discrimination came in Guangzhou in April 2020. Human Rights Watch, HRW, and international news agencies reported that a large number of African residents and black tourists were suddenly kicked out of their hotels onto the streets in the middle of the night. They were refused service at restaurants and banned from entering supermarkets to buy essentials. This all stemmed from baseless rumors on local social media accusing black people of being the source of spreading the disease, causing a wave of diplomatic protests from numerous African embassies in Beijing. Even under normal travel conditions, discomfort is present in many corners. When you walk down a street in smaller provinces, strangers might abruptly rush up to pet your hair or rub their fingers on your skin. This invasion of personal space may come from ignorance, but it is still deeply insulting. When you roll your suitcase up to the front desk of a local hotel, the receptionist might act confused and make up an excuse like, "The computer system is down," to deny you a room. They do this simply because they are afraid of being strictly checked by local police when a black person is present. The best preparation is simple. Use technology, plan your hotels carefully, and keep your documents ready. You must download local translation apps like Baidu Translate and have firm phrases saved in Chinese to refuse photos or personal invasions. Avoid small guest houses when possible. Major international hotel chains are usually safer because the staff are more familiar with foreign guest registration. Always carry your physical passport with you 24/7 to deal with sudden security checks on the streets or at train stations. Number 5. Finland. Finland has one of the cleanest images in the world, having held the crown of the world's happiest country for 7 consecutive years. Global tourists long to come here to soak in the beautiful cold, watch the northern lights dance in Lapland, or sip hot coffee in peaceful little cafes in Helsinki. But for black travelers, behind that polished image of Nordic peace and progress, there can be a cold feeling of being shut out. These are not just feeling-based complaints, but are proven by hard data. In the comprehensive Being Black in the EEU report published in late 2023 by the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights, FRA, Finland unexpectedly had the worst result. A staggering 54% of people of African descent living or traveling here said they had experienced racist harassment in the past 5 years. Discrimination in Finland rarely shows up as shouting or street violence. Instead, it is a quiet barrier. No greeting, no help, no eye contact, and a security guard suddenly following you. A black tourist can walk into a quiet K-Market supermarket in Helsinki. When standing near the checkout counter or looking confused while finding an item, you will realize that no staff member rushes over to help. They avoid your gaze. Meanwhile, the security guard suddenly has plenty of free time to follow closely on your heels through every aisle with sharp eyes. Worse, at popular nightclubs in central Helsinki, bouncers frequently use vague excuses like private guest list or corporate party to politely turn away black guests. This is a subtle form of exclusion that local human rights groups have raised concerns about many times. Don't ever expect violent hostility in Finland, but be ready for a colder social atmosphere than the travel ads suggest. The most practical advice for black travelers is to redefine the goal of your trip. Focus entirely on the magnificent nature experiences of the Nordic region, like skiing, dog sledding, or renting a wooden cabin in the woods. This is often better than trying to break through exhausting, unspoken social barriers at urban nightlife spots. Enjoy Finland for its natural beauty, but be prepared for social coldness that the travel ads rarely show. Number 4. Austria. Austria proudly sells itself through Mozart, Vienna's grand old buildings, and some of the most luxurious alpine ski resorts in the world. Millions of tourists come here to enjoy a slice of Sacher Torte and listen to Mozart. But beneath that elegant upper-class image, Austria remains a very conservative society where racism can show up in daily treatment, police checks, and public spaces. We have to look again at the telling numbers from the 2023 report by the FRA, the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights. Austria recorded one of the most serious numbers in the report. A massive 71% of people of sub-Saharan African descent in Austria stated they had been victims of racism in the past 5 years. More serious than rude looks from citizens, racial profiling by police has been repeatedly raised as a concern. The real-life experience of a black tourist in Austria can feel harsh from the first few moments. Imagine you just grabbed your suitcase and walked out of the Wien Hauptbahnhof Central Station in Vienna. Amid hundreds of tourists rushing by without being bothered, Police officers might walk straight toward you and ask to see your passport. Being surrounded by police in a large public space doesn't just waste your time, it brings a deep sense of humiliation. Hundreds of eyes from passersby lock onto you as if you are a dangerous criminal who has just been caught. If you end up in this checking situation, the safest response is to stay calm and avoid arguing loudly. Hand over your passport calmly, keep your hands visible, and quietly note the badge number if you feel the check was unfair. When it comes to dining and going out, stay away from closed-off traditional restaurants that have a heavy, conservative local vibe. Instead, seek out international spaces, modern cafes, or expat hangouts so your money is rewarded with proper service. Number 3, France. France is sold to tourists through romance, the Eiffel Tower, luxury fashion, and a long multicultural history. As a country that received waves of immigration from the African continent very early on, France has an incredibly large black community. However, that image becomes harder to defend when you look at the data around contrôle au facial, the policing and harassment by law enforcement based entirely on race. A 2021 report by the Défenseur des Droits, the French government's independent human rights watchdog, drew attention globally. This report published data showing that young men who look black or of Arab descent are 20 times more likely to be stopped for ID checks by the police than white young men in the same area. The decades-long tension between the police force and the impoverished suburbs, or banlieues, has turned many young people of color into a default suspect in the eyes of law enforcement. Black tourists can feel that suspicion too, especially around major stations. That same suspicion can follow black travelers into even the luxury shopping experiences they were looking forward to. Imagine pushing open the door to a Louis Vuitton or Chanel boutique on the prestigious Champs-Élysées. While other Asian or European tourists comfortably browse the handbags, you will instantly feel a large security guard standing exactly 2 meters away from you. His eyes will lock onto your every hand movement, following you from counter to counter until you step out the door in frustration. At major stations like Gare du Nord, some black travelers report being stopped, questioned, or searched far more often than other tourists. Dressing neatly can sometimes reduce unwanted attention from security or police, but it should never be mistaken for a solution to discrimination. If you are stopped by the police on the street, absolutely do not suddenly stick your hands in your jacket pockets or backpack. Move your hands slowly, clearly state that you are a tourist reaching for your passport, and cooperate calmly. At the same time, use social media to connect with groups like Black in Paris to find safe cultural spaces where the art and identity of Black people are truly celebrated. Number 02, Germany. Germany has an intense appeal, attracting millions of young people with its world-class techno clubs in Berlin, the vibrant Oktoberfest beer festival in Munich, and ancient castles straight out of a fairy tale. Modern Germany often takes pride in how it rebuilt itself after World War II and tried to become a more diverse society. But today, Germany is also facing real safety concerns for Black travelers and residents as far-right movements grow louder. The data to prove this fracture comes from Afrocensus 2021, the largest independent survey ever conducted on people of African descent in Germany. The report's results were hard to ignore. Over 90% of survey participants stated they had experienced anti-Black discrimination in various forms. The map matters in Germany. In some former East German states, where the far-right Alternative for Germany party has gained serious ground, anti-immigrant talk has become louder and more accepted in certain communities. This divide creates an uncomfortable scenario. You can spend the night in Kreuzberg, Berlin, where the atmosphere is far more open and international. But if you just catch a train for a few hours and step off at a station in a small town in eastern Germany, the atmosphere will change instantly. You push open the door of a local beer pub, and the room may suddenly feel colder, quieter, and less welcoming. In these areas, having to hear public insults, being refused service, or facing the risk of being assaulted by youth groups with neo-Nazi ideologies is not just a rumor, but a real risk. The safest travel strategy in Germany is to plan your route carefully. Prioritize major cities like Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, and well-reviewed areas in Western Germany. In smaller towns, especially at night, it's smarter to avoid walking alone and stick to well-reviewed areas. Save the local emergency numbers, install international travel safety alert apps, and always share your live location with family or friends when traveling through remote areas. Number 1, Italy. Italy is one of the world's top travel dreams, with the Colosseum, the Amalfi Coast, Renaissance art, and one of the most beloved food cultures on Earth. But behind that overwhelming beauty, Italy is one of the most mentally exhausting dream destinations for many Black travelers. Standing at the number one spot, being unwelcomed in Italy is not just a feeling. It points to a deeper problem around race, migration, and class. A 2022 report by the Italian human rights organization Lunaria recorded thousands of racist incidents ranging from verbal abuse to physical attacks. Discrimination in Italy is visible enough that it has appeared on national television, in politics, and inside major football stadiums. Racism in Serie A, including the early 2024 incident where French goalkeeper Mike Maignan was abused with monkey chants from the stands, has become a recurring embarrassment for Italian football. In some Italian cities, Black travelers say they are sometimes treated through the same stereotypes aimed at African migrants or street vendors. Imagine your experience at the Grand Milano Centrale train station. A ticket inspector walks up to a white American tourist, gives a slight nod of greeting in Italian, and punches their ticket quickly. But when it's your turn, as a Black tourist, his attitude may suddenly become colder and more suspicious. He doesn't just ask for your ticket. He may also ask to see your passport, visa, and details about where you're going. He looks at you with suspicion, as if your presence needs extra explanation. Stepping out onto the streets of Florence or Rome, disgusted head shakes, whispers of African reaching your ears, or monkey sounds echoing behind you from groups of local youths are small insults that can drain the joy out of a trip. To enjoy Italy with fewer ugly surprises, you need to prepare yourself mentally. The most practical advice is to travel in groups and consider booking reputable guides, especially in places where language, local rules, or public attitudes may become difficult. Don't get pulled into an argument or yell back at racists on the street. That only escalates the situation. Hold your head high, spend your money only at restaurants and hotels that respect you, and walk through those historical piazzas like a traveler who belongs there. Italy can still be beautiful, but Black travelers shouldn't have to pretend the uncomfortable parts don't exist. The point of this list is not to say every person in these countries will treat Black travelers badly, because that would be unfair and too easy. If this video helped you think more carefully about where you travel, how you prepare, or what other people may experience, I truly hope it was useful. Thanks for watching until the end. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt judged, watched, ignored, or treated differently while traveling? Share your story in the comments. Subscribe for more video like this, and I'll see you in the next video.